Yeah, when you first had your habanero, how did you get it out to people at first? Giving it to friends? Were you peddling it to restaurants? How did you get it out to the world?
And my kind of funny story about that is that I was playing in bars and stuff, and I was trying to say, I've spent my life savings at several different points making music albums, and I'd be trying to sell albums, my albums and stuff at these bars, and people would come in and be like, hey, I've heard about you make that hot sauce though, right? And I don't really want to buy an album, but I'll give you a couple of bucks for if you got some of that hot sauce. I heard about it. So I was playing at Pete's Piano Bar, and a friend of mine, Seth, opened a corn dog stand. So
no way. That sounds like the perfect avenue.
Yeah, he was selling corn dogs. He's selling corn dogs like right outside of the piano bar. And so it was really easy for me to be playing there, and I would and he was like, yeah, this is really good. Like, make me a couple of bottles and I'll, put it on my spicy hot dog or corn dogs. But I remember he sent me a picture one time of the lead singer from Counting Crows had gotten a spicy hot dog and really liked the sauce or something. He sent me a picture of it, and I thought that was cool. But that was sort of how we got the initial validation, sort of the initial market validation. It was just, making a bunch of bottles of it and giving it away a lot of times, or just I didn't know for a long time how to figure out my cost on something, on a bottle. So I was I didn't know for sadly a couple of years how to calculate my exact cost to make a bottle of sauce. I just didn't think about it. I just liked the fact that people wanted to buy the sauce, and it was not intended to be a business. It was just sort of we had this project, got some validation from people being like, oh, I really like this. I want this at my corn dog stand, or, let me buy a bottle of it from you at the bar or something. And so I'd have to go to the bar with a backpack full of hot sauce instead of
hot sauce.
Yeah, right. So I sold a lot of hot sauce out of my backpack. I sold a lot of hot sauce out of the back of my car and parking lots and stuff for a couple of years. It was
so gangster.
Yeah, it was pretty gangster. Yeah. But I didn't really put the pieces together about how to make it a business for a while, and it was just kind of was one piece at a time. But that's how we started. Was we just kind of figured out that people liked it, and then we put a name on it and a face on a brand on it, and Aaron developed a website around it. So we kind of initially launched with farmers markets, and kind of we got some permits to got to get the permits to make it, and go rent some time at a commercial kitchen, and
so that's how that works. So when you're doing it at scale, and by at scale I mean it's not just for a couple friends. It's you have to make a whole bunch. You go to a commercial kitchen, and you rent the space to cook the stuff.
But you also have to be if I was just selling it to my friends for a couple of bucks, that's okay. But if you're going to go to do a farmer's market, or you want to sell it to a restaurant or a store or something, you have to be making it in a kitchen that's inspected by the health department. So it doesn't have to be a kitchen that you own, but you can go rent time at a commissary kitchen or something, and you have to come in and be here's my inspection report, and here's my manufacturer's license, and there's a handful of things that you have to have just to go to your first farmer's market.
Also, in your beginning days, did you ever have what was your worst concoction that you ever made?
Oh God, I made so many bad ones. There are two that I can really tell a story of how bad they were.
Please do tell.
So when I first started, when I was first sampling stuff out to people, because I would go around town and go to different restaurants and chefs and be here's a bottle of it, just try it. I'd love to know what you think about it. Before I was trying to sell them stuff. So I was fermenting, originally I was fermenting peppers and stuff. And I was experimenting with wild fermentation was sort of the first iteration of that. And then I was experimenting with fermenting peppers with different sorts of yeasts that were not usually used in in like a pepper sauce or something. So I made a batch that I fermented with champagne yeast, and you probably see where it's going, but so I made this batch that I fermented with champagne yeast, but then you're supposed to you're supposed to cook it. There's a step where you like cook it to kill the yeast, so it stops
fermenting.
And so I did that, but I think that this particular yeast was just really robust. I mean, I cooked it like at twice the temperature of what yeast is supposed to be able to live through. I think 110 is like where yeast, 110 degrees, like where yeast starts dying, like if you're making bread or beer or something like that. And I put it in these bottles, similar to these bottles, like a little bit bigger bottle than this. And I put it in these bottles, and I'd taken a sample to Quickie Picky, and they called me back and were like, to their credit, not furious about it. They were like, is this some kind of joke? Like, apparently they had opened the bottle and it just erupted like up to the ceiling. Like their head chef had like opened it.
He didn't have to go to the hospital.
Nobody went to the hospital. Nobody went to the hospital. But it like erupted and like hit the ceiling. You know, like she just barely like dodged it and stuff. And I tried it. Like I ended up the rest of that batch, I opened them in the backyard, and it was like they shot across the yard. It was not. I mean, it was like champagne.
What an epic failure!
It was an epic failure. The other like big like failure that I could look at that I had a bunch of feedback on was in 2011 maybe, and this was when I was still trying to figure out. It was 2011 or 2012. I was still sort of like in the midst of making the recipe.
For your habanero?
Yeah, and I had entered, I think it was 2012, I had entered the Austin Hot Sauce Festival, and I was like, I'm going to bring this recipe, the current recipe that I've got. I mean, it's just, I didn't have like a table or anything. You can enter it in the contest, and they have like, for people who've never been to this or any other hot sauce festival, they have like a tasting tent where there's like, they have all these tables lined up, and they basically like take the hot sauces and they just number them. And then they like put it into like they pour them all into the same sort of jar, and then people like taste it with chips, and then they can vote on like their favorite number. And so like I submitted mine, and then I was like, okay, I know what it tastes like. I know what it looks like. I went through the tasting tent and I found the one that was mine. It was like number 43 or something. And so I just like camped out kind of a little ways away, and I was watching people as they tried my sauce. And there were like more people than I care to count who spit it out or made like a just a shudder of disgust, like. And I was
great
like,
feedback though.
Yeah, it was great feedback, and I feel like there's a lot of companies who just release stuff out into the world without getting, it wasn't like a market research group. I didn't have to pay for it. I mean, I did have to pay like $50 or something to enter the sauce, but then it was basically like a market research group of all, ages, sexes, and whatever.
And nobody knows you're there looking at them.
Nobody knows I'm there looking at them, and they all hated it. So I was like,
Jesus.
It was bad. I mean, it was bad.
That's so cool that you can take an experience like that, but still go and continue and be like, all right, what did I learn from this? That's awesome.
I learned that it was bad not to do it again.